Hi, this is Shelley Hoffman with Chief Mike Lefancheck from the Baldwinsville Police Department. I look forward to talking to you every month, Chief, because I watch the village, I see the cars go past, I see all the activities happening, and then I get to ask you in person, well, kind of in person through the computer, about what's been going on. And usually it looks like there's a little bit more activity than there actually is, because where I live, sirens and stuff is going past quite a bit with the ambulances and stuff. But how have you been?
I'm doing well. And to your point, those individuals, obviously you're living on, one of the main state routes in the village. And, in order to get to points north, the ambulance has got to come up Oneida Street to Oswego and go up past your home and the fire department and things. So, no matter what's going on, people don't realize sometimes they think that like the ambulance corps or the fire department, they service an area much larger than just the village itself. So there's a lot of activity coming through our village at all hours of the day, because the other issue is there's only three real ways to get over the Seneca River. And the main one that people use most of the time, it seems anyway, is right through the heart of the village, the Route 48 bridge. Otherwise, you got to go 690 and get on the bridge there. And then, or you got to go all the way out to John Glenn to get around and then come back in via that way. So, there's a lot of traffic that comes through our village every day. You think about a village that was developed in the, early to mid 1800s, the first settlers getting here and laying out the tracks for the village and the streets. And many of our streets date back to the 1800s. And certainly things are a little different than they were back then. There's always something, it seems, going on. And what's interesting, I've talked to friends of mine that work for either the sheriff's department or the state police that oftentimes patrol different parts of the county. And one especially that I worked with 30 something years ago before we both became officers, and he works for the sheriff's department. He said, it always amazes me that Baldwinsville always has someone walking around. Doesn't matter what day it is, doesn't matter what time of the day, someone is walking on the streets, 3 a.m, 3 in the afternoon, whenever. Someone's always walking. And so there's always something going on in the village. There really is.
I tell you all the time, I absolutely love living there. I love the fact that my daughters are often people walking on the street, not at 2 a.m. If you do see them walking at 2 a.m., I want to know about that. Usually more like 6 p.m. But
as you know, I messaged you the other day. I saw your daughter working at her place of employment here in the village, and even with a mask on, she's like, "You're the police chief, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I didn't have a uniform on or anything, so I give her credit. She knew I was, so it was funny. She's like, "Oh, I'm Shelley Hoffman's daughter." I'm like, "I know who you are. Don't worry."
Keep an eye on that one, Chief. That's all I'm going to say. So what's been happening in our village since we last spoke?
Well, I'd like to start with some sad news, and I posted on our Facebook page a couple days ago. Sarah Perkins, who's a former communications officer of ours, she passed away at the much too young age of 42. Her parents, Tom and Roxy, are longtime friends of the department. Tom's longtime member of the Baldwinsville Fire Department, former fire chief, district chief. Roxy worked part-time dispatcher for us. She was in the school nurse's office up at Baker High School for many years, and just wonderful people. And we're just, those of us that worked with Sarah, are just very, very saddened by this news. And it hits hard, especially with a former communication officer a few weeks ago, Larry Schuler, passing away. It just is a tough time of year for this to be happening, and just like to extend the deepest sympathies to the Perkins family. They, a great family here in town, and have done a lot for the community over the years, and just a very tough thing for them. So we just like to express our condolences to them. And then first, I'd probably start with the so-called 500-pound gorilla in the room. And I got some calls from media, although I wasn't quoted. But I know a number of sheriffs in the area put out some statements, and regarding the governor's executive order dealing with 10 people in a residence, and especially as we approach Thanksgiving and those types of things. And
Yeah.
for those people out there that don't know, I'm a member of the Board of Governors. I'm a past president for the New York State Association Chiefs of Police. And our association put out a statement as well that I had a hand in editing. I didn't draft it, but I was certainly involved in the editing process for that. And my comment when I was called by media members is, what are you going to do? Are you actively seeking these things out? And the answer to that was no. Just like any call for service we receive, we're going to respond. We're going to evaluate it. We're going to handle the incident, whatever is the most appropriate way. Now,
Okay.
that means if we show up and obviously somebody opens the door and we can see that there's 30 or 40 people inside the house, well, clearly we're going to be having a conversation with the resident there, the owner of that property, and say this is going to end and people are going to leave. So we didn't get any calls over Thanksgiving, and I'm very, very pleased about that. There was no one that was actively, engaged in that type of behavior where it was drawing attention to themselves and creating issues for them or their neighbors or their family. So that's our philosophy on this: is we're going to evaluate, we're going to handle, no matter what call for service it is, in the most effective means possible. Are we out there? I know a lot of people had I saw going around on social media, the governor's face on the window
On the
stickers
window.
there, which I personally thought was kind of funny. I mean, it was kind of cute. I understand why the governor is doing some of these things. Not every decision he makes is going to be popular. He's in an unenviable position. In many cases, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, and they're making the best decisions they can as they move forward with a lot of moving parts. You look at New York State, and it's a pretty diverse state as they're trying to make statewide decisions, and from Long Island and New York City to Potsdam and Buffalo, and then certainly Baldwinsville. It's difficult to make a decision that's going to apply effectively and equally and impartially to everyone in all those unique jurisdictions. But I'm not saying I agree or disagree with what the governor's doing. I'm just saying he's got an unenviable task, and no matter who's making those decisions, someone's not going to be happy with him or her. So right now it's him, it's Governor Cuomo, and so it falls upon us at the local level to then enforce or respond when we're called. And that's what we're going to do. Are we actively seeking these things out? No, the answer to that is no. But are we going to deal with something if we get called? Yeah, because that's what we have to do. That's what we've been tasked with doing. And, we're going to deal with it. And our goal obviously would be, just like it has been throughout this, is to gain voluntary compliance, talk to the people, educate. We've gotten a phone call. Next step here, we just saw it recently in the media. I think the Syracuse Police Department issued a $1,000 summons to someone that was cutting hair inappropriately at their shop, I believe, or something along those lines. And I know there's been some times when Syracuse University has played, and some local bars and establishments in the county have been written up and gotten fines levied against them for violating protocols. So I really don't want to see that happen to any business or private person in the village. So I appreciate, the cooperation from our residents. I don't know if you'd received any calls or comments or thoughts on that, Shelley, but I know that I had gotten called on it and just wanted to touch base with people. And what's the Baldwinsville Police Department's philosophy? Well, that's it.
Well, that's typically what I hear is what will happen if somebody, instead of having, like I talked to one woman, there's 7 people in their family and there's 4 people in her brother's family. So right there, that takes to 11. And I didn't ask her what they decided to do. Did they get together? Did they not? But those are the types of things. And then what's the repercussions if they did or they didn't do that? Most people I know, honestly, Chief, had probably one of the most quiet Thanksgiving dinners, myself and my kids included. There was just the 4 of us. I know the cases are kind of rising, so you can kind of see, where he's coming from, whether you agree or you don't agree. Just a personal story for me, my brother was coming up for Thanksgiving. If Thanksgiving would have been the following or the week before. He was coming on a Saturday. Friday night, my brother started getting symptoms the week before Thanksgiving. Saturday, he ended up having full symptoms. Sunday, he got tested. He had COVID. So there's an example where my brother would have been up for Thanksgiving, on Saturday where his symptoms started. And then the whole, my family probably would have been infected. And again, maybe we wouldn't have been, who knows? But, at the same time, I felt bad that my brother was home by himself in Pittsburgh for Thanksgiving, especially since he had COVID symptoms. But he did end up, staying home and doing what he was supposed to do. And now he's back to work. So,
Yeah,
you see both sides.
absolutely. And for me, I picked up my daughter is tested every week. She works at a local nursing home here in the area and is a nursing assistant there, and she's tested every week. And I had dinner with her. My oldest son's at RN at Upstate Hospital, so he was working, and then my two other sons, one lives in Nashville, one's in Raleigh, so they stayed where they are with their girlfriends. And then I picked up meals at a local restaurant here, and I'm going to give a shout out to Tassones. They did a great job on their Thanksgiving meals. They couldn't have been any better. And I took them over to my parents, who have an apartment here in the village. And, instead of trying to cook a whole meal, and, my mom and dad are, in their early 80s, and getting them out and about is probably not a smart move. So I just took stuff and brought it over to them. And it was very low key, most low key ever. And normally I would gather with some cousins and get together and host at probably my house. And we'd have, a group of people, 10 or maybe a little more, but we didn't do any of that this year. So, and probably going to be the same for Christmas and things. So, and we didn't get any calls talking to people I know and friends of mine. It was the same thing. People got together, either FaceTime or Zoom or one of those online platforms. And I just had my parents get Wi-Fi in their apartment, so I could bring an iPad over and we could do some Zoom calls with, the grandchildren and my cousins and things, which we'll be doing over the next few weeks. So just so they get to see people and say hello to them. So it's a different world we're living in. Obviously, there's a couple of vaccines that are going to be out there, but before those are available to the community at large, it's going to be a while. So I think we're going to have to, persevere through this.
No, I agree. And once again, our community just seems to kind of band together. My family actually gets sick of listening to me say I love where I live, but I really do. Like all aspects of it. It has its good, it has its bads, but for the most part, I was talking to Jimmy Delia from Pizza Man about a couple of things. And I think being here, living here, has made 2020 a more bearable year for me than maybe some other places. Because I don't know if I ever told you, but I've moved about 14 times in my life. So I've lived in a lot of different places.
I've heard some of the stories in our passings and our chats before or after these things. So I'm like, but no, and I think to your credit, you've had a big hand in that. Baldwinsville helping Baldwinsville, and I still see things with that on social media that I'm a member of that. And I think the community at large and a lot of people have really done as much as they can to try and make people feel connected still, and have that sense of community that we've had to obviously cancel the Memorial Day parade, and they couldn't do the turkey trot, and we couldn't do the Christmas tree lighting with the parade with the fire trucks, and obviously this past year with July 4th and the fireworks not occurring, and you start to look at all those types of things, the Memorial Day parade and all those things that people come together for and enjoy doing. And this year, unfortunately, we couldn't do those, but I think there's still been some nice things that we've tried to maintain that sense of community and assistance for people. And I think we have.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure that's the case everywhere. And obviously not everyone's either going to take advantage of that or know about it, but you can't hit everybody. But I think we've done a pretty good job in our community of that. I give the mayor credit for the weekly talks he's done with you, and the different things, and it keeps people up to date with what's happening, how are governments functioning, what are they doing. I know in my building and in the safeguards I put into effect, I try and keep our officers out on the road as much as I can, so that way I know they're in their vehicle, they can put the window down, and no one can come in here without a mask on, and you have to wear your mask at all times unless you're seated at your desk. And if there's another person in the squad room, and our squad room is big enough to have certainly more than 6 feet apart, but still you have to have a mask on. And I've split some of my clerical staff to work in opposite days, just to, it might decrease workflow, but I think it improves the chance that should one of them have to quarantine, the other one can work then the 5 days. So we're just doing the most we can to keep our staff safe, because we are a public safety sector, and there's no guarantees. It's all over the place, and just doing the most we can here.
Oh, absolutely. The one thing when you mentioned on the community, I want to say is Thanksgiving morning. It's my first Thanksgiving waking up in the village. And so I don't know if it happens normally with the turkey trot. I'll let you know next year when things are back to a little bit more in person. But people were actually yelling Happy Thanksgiving or Happy Turkey Day while they were, they had a couple running partners with them, and they did the virtual. But they went through the village, dressed up in their turkey trot gear and were yelling.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I woke up to. It was kind of neat. I like that. And then obviously the Christmas lights, a lot of them were on before even Thanksgiving, because the mayor asked, to kind of light up Baldwinsville, and PAC-B's doing the competition. You can vote for the different homes and stuff. So, I mean, it's just neat. Once again, just like summertime, things are different, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It's just, it's opened up the box to do things a little bit more creatively, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, our officers continue to be on patrol 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, we're still taking the same types of calls and incidents that we've been talking about for some time. We're averaging about a call a day between, either domestic disturbance call or individual suffering from some sort of mental health issue. And I'm in the process now of working out a memorandum of understanding of agreement with local provider to provide some mental health services for individuals that we come into contact with, that our officers can utilize this group as a resource. So hopefully next month I'll be able to talk about that with a little bit more in depth. But we think that'll be a very good partnership. And, I was just talking with Lieutenant Lockwood before you and I came on the air here. And he said, can you please, again, he goes, I know you've been harping on it, talk about the number of cars that are being stolen in the county. There's a lot of vehicles that are being stolen outside the city of Syracuse. Oftentimes we hear about that in the more urban areas in the city, but there's groups that are coming from elsewhere. They're not from Baldwinsville, because we've apprehended a couple of their other agencies have, but there's vehicles being stolen. People leaving their keys in their car, they're starting them up to warm them up, and then they go back in the house. And obviously they're leaving them unlocked. So I just ask our residents to be very, very vigilant. Please lock your cars at night. Use your remote start, but do not go out and turn the key and start the car and just leave it out there. That's just a recipe for a problem. So, other than that, we're just continuing to try and stay as safe as we can, minimize our contact. And that way we're going to be there for those emergency type calls if we can be. But if someone picks up the phone and calls, our officers are going to respond, and we're going to do everything we can to solve their problems.
Good. So I did have, and if you don't want to touch on this, you can change the subject on me. But I did talk to the mayor. I think it was last week or the week before, about something over at Kenny Drugs, and a lot of times people actually will turn themselves in because of all the social media stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind talking? It doesn't have to be that specific story, but just in general about that.
Sure. And I will say, Kenny Drugs, the management over there, they're very diligent and aggressive about individuals that go in there and steal. And unfortunately, it does happen quite frequently. That's probably the most common place we go. Paul's manager over there, he's a great partner with us. He contacts us frequently if individuals go in there and take things. And and let me just be clear, for the most part, people are not stealing peanut butter and bread because they're hungry. They're stealing luxury items or things to, either because they want those things or they're supporting some other issue that they have going on. So it's not as if people are stealing cans of soup. I just want to make sure that people are clear about that. But we've got a great partnership with some of the local media. I know in the past, Syracuse.com, Channel 9, CY Central, they've been very, very helpful to us and law enforcement in the area, quite frankly, with posting individuals' images. Kinney's has a very, very solid surveillance system there and camera system. Normally we get some pretty good imagery and we're able to put people's faces online. And normally once we do that, we kind of time it. So we'll do it at like 9 in the morning. That way we know we got people here to answer the phone because the phone's going to start ringing or that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. And there's been many times where the person calls up and says, yeah, that's me. Can you take my picture down? And our response is, sure. As soon as you show up, we'll call them, we'll get it taken down. All right, I'll be right down. And they come down and they turn themselves in. And you know, that's a true story. People call up and say, that's me. Let me get down there. So I think we've only had like one instance where we put somebody's picture out there and nobody knew who it was. And normally we go through some other channels. We'll put it out through a process by which all law enforcement in the area can review it, including probation and parole. So sometimes those individuals have been arrested before, and we'll have people, the probation or parole officer, before it even gets to the media, we've normally gone through the Crime Analysis Center and put it out via bulletin in that fashion. And then we put it out on the media. And normally that day, we're getting phone calls. And when you start to get 6, 7, 8 phone calls with the same name, that's so-and-so, then we know it's that person. Because if you start getting calls and 8 people have 8 different names, that's not too helpful. Excuse me. But normally it's all the same name.
That was interesting when you said, and I thought to myself, hopefully you never get my image for anything, but if you would, I would be the first person to call and say, please take that down. So it made sense as soon as he said it, but
I've actually picked up the phone and been the only person in the office when that calls come in. And, you know, Luann's like, there's a so-and-so on the phone. They say it's them. I said, oh, I'll talk to them. And, yeah, so that I know firsthand that's factual because I've spoken to a couple of those people myself.
That makes sense. So, well, as far as anything else with the village that's kind of been going on or that you want to get out there, I was expecting the car locking thing with things getting cold. It makes sense. This car starters and stuff. I've been using mine. So I completely
but
get that.
I mean, you know, Lieutenant Locker was like, when you look at that daily crime report, it used to say City of Syracuse, City of Syracuse, City of Syracuse, but now it's saying Town of Salina, Town of Onondaga, Lafayette, DeWitt, Baldwinsville, Liverpool, you know, Camilla, it doesn't matter where. So we're not confined to those areas. So, excuse me, I think with people being home, people being cooped up in their houses, you know, there might be other reasons too. I just, you know, we'll probably figure those out at a later point in time, but that's something I'd like to harp on. And other than that, just want the village residents to know that if they need us, we continue to be diligent, on duty, and there for the residents. Obviously, traffic safety is a big thing for us now. It's getting colder. As much as some of us might want to snow, I know a lot of people like to snowmobile. Renee from La Tresse is a big snowmobiler, and she's always harping about wanting the snow to fly. And then there's other people that are like, we don't want any snow at all. So, but we can't control what we get, but it's going to come. And, you know, I just ask folks to slow down when you're driving, give that extra 5 or 10 minutes to get where you're going. Understand that it's going to take a little longer because the roads, you know, might not be as cleared as possible. Because just keep in mind, you know, whether it be the DPW, whether it be the Lysander, Van Buren, or state DOT or county DOT, they could be on reduced workforces, breaking groups into different pods, and things might take a little longer than they might normally, just to maintain some continuity of operation. So just for everyone to keep all those things in mind as we move forward. Just think about your own workplaces, and that translates over to everything that those crews are doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to talk to Jim from the ambulance corps this week or next week, but he made a point about his crew and the snowplows. If somebody contacts it and people have to quarantine, that's going to limit the amount of people that are in their department out there and helping. So, the snow plows, if it's a big storm and they have half their staff because, however they end up working it, I know the mayor said they have, things in place for that, but it's going to be an interesting year. And I think just like this community's done through the whole time, there needs to be that sense of understanding, cooperation with how they're going to be able to run, to keep our streets clear and to keep everybody safe. So it's good to point that out.
Yeah.
But all right, sir. Well, unless you have something else new, anything else that I want to tell you, I have to put some schemes in place and work and then talk to you and the code enforcer. But I don't know if you saw Angela from Fashion Rescue thinks I should have a rooftop party this summer. So I need to figure out how to get that past the chief of police and the code enforcer. And when I do that, I will talk that out there and look for public support. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that's on my agenda.
First I'm hearing of it, but hopefully we'll be in a position by the summer where we can do that.
Absolutely.
We'll see, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I'm not sure there's going to be a vaccine available for everyone by then. We'll see. I'd like to be in a position where that could occur. So we'll keep our fingers.
Me too. So we'll enjoy your holiday.
You do the same. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.